Font styling CSS. Fonts play a crucial role in web design, influencing readability, aesthetics, and the overall user experience. So CSS provides various properties to style fonts, making it possible to customize style appearance to suit the design requirements. So we have different font properties. We have the font family, we have the font size, we have the font weight, we also have the font style. All right, so let's look at the font family. Font family specifies the font used for the text. All right. It is good practice to provide a list of fonts, that is fallbacks, in case the preferred font is not available. And we have three main categories of fonts. Okay, we have three main categories of fonts. Understanding the three main categories, that is the serif, sans serif, and monospace, helps in choosing the right fonts for readability and functionality. All right, so we have the three main categories: the serif, sans serif, and the monospace. The serif font, all right, it has small lines or strokes at the ends of each letter, creating a more traditional look. And it's often used in print media like newspapers, books, and magazines, as the serifs help guide the eyes along the lines of text. You will see more of that on newspapers and even books and maybe magazines. So when you see a font that has small lines or stroke, okay, at the end of each letter, then know that that is serif. And then we have the so common examples. We have the Times New Roman, the Georgia. We have this Garamond as well. Okay, so these are some common examples of serif fonts. So one of the advantages is that it is good for long form reading, and it adds a formal or classic feel. But the downside is that it may look outdated or clustered in digital displays, especially at smaller sizes. All right. And then we have the sans serif font. So the fonts actually lack the small lines at the end of letters, making them appear cleaner and more modern. So unlike serif that has small lines or stroke at the end of each letter, right? Sans serif doesn't come with the small lines, right? So it actually makes your text appear more cleaner and modern as well. So it is preferred for web content. So if you are building web content, most cases we actually use sans serif font. All right. So preferred for web content and digital interfaces because they are easier to read on screens. So common example, we have this area Helvetica. Then we also have this bandana. The advantage is that it's ideal for screen reading, creates a modern and minimalist look. And the downside is that it may actually lack the personality or warmth found in serif fonts. And then we have the third category, which is the monospace font. All right. So each character takes up the same width, creating a uniform appearance. So each character, so for instance, each word now, the E letter, A letter, C, and the H letter, they are going to take same width. All right. And that is why you will see you can actually create different lines or create lines of patterns or patterns of lines, okay, in between text, because they will be well arranged if you have multiple lines of text like a paragraph, right? So each character takes up the same weight, creating a uniform appearance. Usage commonly used in coding, technical documents, and design mockups to align text and numbers neatly. And we have those examples here. And the good part is that it's excellent for technical documents or code, and it makes reading aligned text easier. But the downside is that it's not ideal for large bodies of text in standard reading because it can appear rigid. So that is actually one of the downside of monospace fonts. Also, I actually want to show us a good example of the three categories basically. So serif, we mentioned that serif they have small line or stroke at the end of each letter, and this is what we mean actually. You can see this, right? All these edges here. This is the line we are talking about, like this E here. Look at it here. So this is serif. Alright, but if you look at sans serif doesn't have the line, it doesn't have those lines, right? It looks clean and more modern as well. Then monospace. M here has the same width as O. N also has the same width as O here. Similarly, all these letters here, they have the same width. So they take the same width, and you can easily align your text, and it is good for coding. And if you look at your coding, if you look at the text on your VS Code carefully, you will notice that all these texts they are well aligned, and they have the same width. All right, because this is a good example of mono space font. Okay, so let's test each of these guys before we proceed. Let's test. So what I'm going to do is I will say serif and give this a class name of serif. I think I'm going to use paragraph instead, so that we can actually see it very well. We can actually see what is going on. I'm going to use paragraph instead. Monospace, yeah, monospace. Okay, I'll use paragraph, and basically I'm going to use Lorry. Same content, copy. Okay. All right. I would actually love double line. Okay, no problem. I will increase the font size instead, so that we can actually see. So first, what I'm going to do is increase the font size to 20 pixels, so that we can have multiple lines. Did I link it? Okay, great. So we have the document, right? In the body, we have three paragraphs. The first paragraph has a class of serif, second one has a class of sans serif, and then third one has a class of monospace. They actually have the same content, right? Same lorem text for each of the category of fonts that we have. Then for style, all we do is to set the font size to 20 pixels, right? And then here is the output. Then if I go back to my slide, right, we mentioned that these are some of the examples of serif fonts, and we're going to use that right away. Serif. So I will head back to the browser, and then to the code rather, and then select this first one, serif, right? I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. So the serif using the class selector. So we use the font family property. So you can see it here, Times New Roman, Times, and then serif. So I'm just going to select this basically. Now, the reason we have to set this serif at the end is actually for a fallback, okay, to have something to fall back to if this Times New Roman is not available on our system, or if the browser cannot load this font, right, then the browser will fall back to serif and then give us that effect. Save this, then back to the browser, refresh. Look at it here. Actually, it doesn't change because that is actually the font, because they are serif. Because if you look at the line for each letter here, you can see the small lines and the stroke, right? And if you inspect it, you're going to see the style right in your developer tool. So we have our Times New Roman, Times, and then the serif. So let's see the second one, sans serif. We have the L vertical, right? Yeah, the area, the bandana. So I'm going to copy the class, save, copy rather, and then the dot operator, this, and then now font family. So let's see. So here we have it, the area L vertical. So we can specify multiple or value for the font family, just as I've mentioned. So what the browser will do is that it first check for Times New Roman. If Times New Roman is not available, it will go for the next one. And then if the next one too is not available, then it will default or fall back to the typeface serif. All right. Similarly here too, it will check for area. If area is not available, it will apply or set the font family to L vertical. And if the L vertical is not in your system, it falls back to sans serif. So save this. So sans serif is the second paragraph, right? Take a look at the font. If I refresh now, you see it has changed. Those stroke and lines, they are no longer there. And if I select it now, you can see the font family has changed. It's not the serif type of font anymore. Now let's now see the monospace. I will go to index, get that class, copy, style, the dot operator, dump the class name there, then font family. Okay, great. So here is a good example. And if I refresh, you can see it, right? You can see it has changed the font family to a monospace type of font that we have. So that's that for font family. Okay, but before we proceed to the other font type that we have, I actually want to show us how to use Google Fonts. So we can actually use external resources to set our font size. In fact, in most cases, if you are building professional websites, we don't rely on others this font, okay, this font styles here. What we do is we use the Google Fonts, and to get that, I'm going to open up in the browser, then go to Google Fonts. So you can type font right in your browser, or you can type fonts.google.com to go to the site directly. So you can see fonts.google.com. I'm just going to select, we click on Google Fonts. Right, Google Fonts, you're going to see nice, amazing, and a whole lot of fonts, okay, that you can use in your design. It's still loading, I guess. Yeah, it's still loading. So you can see these are different fonts, basically, and you get to see how they look like. All right, it's this. You see different fonts that you can use in your design. I'm looking for. Okay, great. Let's use now. If I actually want to use these fonts right in my design, for instance, I will just select it. I will select it. Okay, but you have to be connected for you to use this font in your design actually. Got it. Then once you are here, what all you need to do is go to get font. Very straightforward. Now you can download this if you want. If you want to download, you can download it. But in most cases, we do embed the font in our code. So I will select get embed code, and then you get to see the code that you can add to your HTML code, right? So I will copy everything here, or you can click the copy button here, right? And then I will head back to my document. My document, what I'm going to do right now is I will dump it here after the title. After the title, I will dump it here. Just as I've mentioned, you have to be connected if you're using this link, because as you can see, this is actually what's loading an online resource, right? HTTPS. So which means you have to be connected for your code to actually load this font in your design. All right. And so to test it, I'm going to create an H1 and then get some content here, say transforming passion for technology to impact. Yeah, so nothing's going to happen. If I load it now, you're still going to see the normal fonts for our H1. The normal fonts for our H1. Okay, you see it doesn't change, nothing doesn't change actually. Let me close up the developer too. And then let's proceed. And ensure that you're on the web, please, because there is one for Android, there is one for iOS, and if you are developing in Flutter, you have another one. To ensure you are on the web. So after you've added the one for your HTML, and this is how you can use it in your CSS. So font family, this is the name of the font. So it is a type of serif. You can see it, right? So if, for instance, now if you are not connected, right, and then you are trying to load that document, now the document will not be able to have access to Google Font, right, using this font. So therefore, it will now fall back to this serif font. All right, but the moment you come online or connected to the internet, then it can load this font for you. So what I will do right now is I will copy this line, this is the line that I actually need, and then go back to my instance, and then say H1. You can declare it anywhere. I just want to declare it at the top, then dump it right there. Save. Now let's see if we get the font. So I'm going to refresh. So it has changed. So this is how you can use external resources like Google Fonts in your design. So next one is the font size. So the font size defines the size of the text, can be set in various units. So and which I believe we've used most of these units, right? The pixels, the EM, the rem, percentage as well. So example, font size is 18 pixels. We also have fonts. We have the font width as well, which controls the thickness of the font. All right, using values such as normal, bold, or numbers from 100 to 900. So, for example, you can set font weight to 700, right? And then we also have the font style, which allows text to be styled as normal, italic. All right, and then here's a private example: font size set to italic. Okay, so let's see how we can use these three properties. And so maybe on the let me see the output. Maybe on this, I'm going to use font size of, ideally it has a font size of 20 pixels. Let's increase it. Let's increase the number to 25. So which means we should have the fonts. So the font size has actually changed for the first one actually. Then let's use font weight. Okay, font weight on this font weight. So remember, font weight specify the thickness, right? The thickness. So I'm going to say bold, be bolder for this. So you see, so we now have a bolder text as a result of the font weight that we set on that element. And then finally, let's use the font style to italic. Normal is actually the default. Normal is the default value in a very registered. You see, is now in slanting form or the italic form. So that's that for font styling in CSS.